The timestamp reads 1:42:05 p.m. on the 8th of November, 2022. A young woman enters from the left side of the frame. She presses the call button and waits, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. At 1:42:18 p.m., she glances at her phone. The screen's glow illuminates her face briefly and smiles. She tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. The elevator arrives. She steps inside at 1:42:22 p.m. The doors close 3 seconds later. The lobby empties. The timestamp continues its mechanical count forward. According to Seattle Police Department testimony filed 6 days later, this 17-second sequence captured the last confirmed sighting of 24-year-old college graduate Emily Chen alive. Emily Chen woke early in the apartment she shared with two former college roommates in the Fremont neighborhood. Her roommate, Sarah Mitchell, testified in court 9 months later that Emily had been anxious but focused that morning, reviewing notes on her tablet while eating oatmeal at the kitchen table. She was preparing for what she believed was a legitimate job interview, a personal assistant position listed on Indeed, offering a salary of $52,000 annually, roughly 20% above the going rate for recent graduates. Emily left her apartment shortly after noon, taking the light rail 3 stops south to the Capitol Hill station. Surveillance cameras on the platform captured her boarding the second car at 12:58 p.m. She was alone, scrolling through her phone, the light from the screen reflecting off the window glass as the train moved through the tunnel. She exited at 1:12 p.m. and walked 4 blocks east through a neighborhood of coffee shops and vintage stores, the scent of roasted espresso and damp pavement thick in the November air. At 1:31 p.m., she entered a 7-Eleven convenience store adjacent to the residential complex. The cashier, a part-time student named Marcus Wong, remembered her because she paid with exact change and asked for directions to Building D. He pointed through the window. She thanked him, purchased a bottle of Dasani water, and left. At 1:38 p.m., standing in the shadow of the tower's concrete facade, she sent a text message to her boyfriend, a graduate student named Jason Huang. "I'm here. Going up now. Wish me luck." The message metadata, later extracted by digital forensics specialists, showed it was sent from cell tower SEA 4721-B, located 100 meters north of the building. The message was delivered and read at 1:39 p.m. It was the last outgoing transmission her phone would ever make. By 5 o'clock that evening, the sky over Seattle had darkened to the color of wet slate. Jason sent a follow-up text. How did it go? The message showed as delivered but remained unread. He called at 5:43 p.m. The phone rang 4 times and went to voicemail. He called again at 6:05 p.m., then 6:22 p.m., then 7 p.m. Each time, the call connected but wasn't answered. By 7:30 p.m., the phone was going straight to voicemail without ringing, a sign that it had either been powered off or destroyed. Emily's roommate grew concerned when she didn't return for dinner. Emily was punctual by habit, always texting if plans changed. By 8 p.m., Sarah Mitchell was calling mutual friends, asking if anyone had heard from her. No one had. Jason arrived at the apartment at 9:15 p.m. Together, they retraced the digital trail, the job posting, the messages, the address. Sarah pulled up Emily's Find My iPhone app, which showed her last known position as the residential complex at 1:42 p.m. After that, the blue dot had simply vanished from the map. The silence in the apartment was profound. The absence of the familiar sounds, keys turning in the lock, the shuffle of shoes being removed, Emily's voice calling out that she was home, created a vacuum that seemed to pull the air from the room. Outside, the city hummed with its usual nighttime rhythm, indifferent to the void opening in Unit 1104 of a building 7 miles away. At 1:38 p.m., Standing in the shadow of the tower's concrete facade, she sent a text message to her boyfriend, a graduate student named Jason Huang. "I'm here, going up now. Wish me luck." The message metadata, later extracted by digital forensics specialists, showed it was sent from cell tower SEA 4721-B, located 100 meters north of the building. The message was delivered and read at 1:39 p.m. It was the last outgoing transmission her phone would ever make. At 11:15 p.m., Jason and Sarah entered the Seattle Police Department's East Precinct. The lobby was fluorescent bright and smelled faintly of floor wax and burnt coffee. The officer at the front desk, a 15-year veteran named Sergeant Emily Chen, took their report with procedural efficiency. He asked for Emily's age, physical description, and last known whereabouts. When told she was 24 and had been out of contact for fewer than 12 hours, his pen paused over the form. "Adults have the right to go where they want," he said, not unkindly. "Maybe she met a friend. Maybe she needed space." Jason insisted something was wrong. The sergeant sighed and completed the report, assigning it case number 2022 EP 1847. He told them to go home and wait. If she hadn't returned by morning, they could come back and speak to a detective. They left the station at 11:47 p.m. Security footage from the lobby exit shows them walking out into the November night, their postures slumped, their faces illuminated briefly by the streetlights before they disappeared into the darkness. The case file sat in a plastic tray on the sergeant's desk, one among dozens filed that week. In missing persons cases involving young adults, the first 24 hours are often lost to the presumption of voluntary absence. This delay, though procedurally standard, would later be cited by investigators as the narrow window during which evidence was methodically destroyed. At 1:38 p.m., standing in the shadow of the tower's concrete facade, she sent a text message to her boyfriend, a graduate student named Jason Huang. "I'm here, going up now. Wish me luck." The message metadata, later extracted by digital forensics specialists, showed it was sent from cell tower SEA 4721-B, located 100 meters north of the building. The message was delivered and read at 1:39 p.m. It was the last outgoing transmission her phone would ever make. On the morning of November 9th, while police prioritized active cases, Emily's family began their own investigation. Her younger brother, Michael Chen, a software engineer, managed to access her laptop using a password she had shared with the family for emergencies. He found her browser history, the job posting on Indeed, a link to a company homepage constructed from stock photography and boilerplate text, and a saved email with the interview address. The company name, Apex Digital Solutions, returned no corporate registration when searched through Washington's Secretary of State Business Database. The website domain had been registered 2 weeks earlier through a proxy service in Panama. Michael printed the address and drove to the building with his mother. They stood in the same elevator lobby the surveillance camera had filmed the previous afternoon. The security guard on duty confirmed he had seen a young woman matching Emily's description, but privacy regulations prohibited him from disclosing which floor she had visited without a police order. Mrs. Chen, a retired high school teacher, stood in the empty lobby and wept. She was meters away from the truth, separated only by concrete, glass, and the bureaucratic inertia of a system designed to protect the innocent, but often shielding the guilty as well. At 1:38 p.m., standing in the shadow of the tower's concrete facade, she sent a text message to her boyfriend, a graduate student named Jason Huang. "I'm here, going up now. Wish me luck." The message metadata, later extracted by digital forensics specialists, showed it was sent from cell tower SEA 4721-B, located 100 meters north of the building. The message was delivered and read at 1:39 p.m. It was the last outgoing transmission her phone would ever make. 48 hours after the disappearance, on the afternoon of November 10th, the case file reached the desk of Detective Mark Rivera, a 20-year veteran of the Seattle Police Department's Homicide and Assault Unit. He read the initial report, noted the abrupt cessation of phone activity, and immediately elevated the case status. He subpoenaed the victim's mobile carrier records and requested cell tower triangulation data. The technical report arrived by email at 4:22 p.m. Emily's phone had pinged tower SEA 4721-B at 1:42:19 p.m. on November 8th, consistent with her location at the residential building. 7 minutes later, at 1:49:03 p.m., the phone disconnected from the network entirely. Phones don't simply die at random. They are powered off deliberately, run out of battery after extended use, or are physically destroyed. Detective Rivera convened a briefing with 2 junior investigators and a digital forensics specialist. "This isn't a runaway," he said, tapping the printout of the cell data. "This is something else." The classification was officially changed from missing person, voluntary absence suspected, to endangered person, possible foul play. The procedural machinery of the state began to turn in earnest. A warrant was prepared to access the building's security footage. Notices were sent to hospitals and the county medical examiner. The family was contacted and told that the case was now being treated as a criminal investigation. Mrs. Chen, receiving the call, felt relief and terror in equal measure. At 1:38 p.m., standing in the shadow of the tower's concrete facade, she sent a text message to her boyfriend, a graduate student named Jason Huang. "I'm here. Going up now. Wish me luck." The message metadata, later extracted by digital forensics specialists, showed it was sent from cell tower SEA 4721-B, located 100 meters north of the building. The message was delivered and read at 1:39 p.m. It was the last outgoing transmission her phone would ever make. The cybercrimes unit traced the IP address associated with the job posting. It didn't originate from a corporate server, but from a prepaid SIM card purchased with cash at a T-Mobile store in Capitol Hill. The card had been used intermittently over the previous month, always from locations within a 3-mile radius of the residential complex. 2 weeks before Emily's disappearance, the device had connected to public Wi-Fi at a Starbucks on Pike Street. Detective Rivera obtained the shop's surveillance footage. At 2:37 p.m. on October 26th, a man in his mid-30s, wearing a black baseball cap and medical mask, sat in the corner booth with a smartphone. The timestamp matched the IP login precisely. His face was obscured, but his build and posture were recorded. He was not a CEO. He was a predator, engineering a trap. Cross-referencing the building's tenant registry with digital activity, investigators identified a person of interest. Robert Lin, a 37-year-old man with a history of wire fraud and 2 dismissed sexual harassment complaints from previous employers. He had leased Unit 1104 on the 11th floor 6 months earlier, paying the deposit in cash. Employment records showed he was currently unemployed, yet he had posted multiple high-salary job listings online in recent weeks. On November 11th, Detective Rivera obtained a search warrant. The briefing before the raid was tense. No one voiced the fear aloud, but the evidence suggested they were no longer searching for a living person. "We proceed as if she's alive," Rivera instructed his team. "But we prepare for what the scene might tell us." On the morning of November 12th, police seized the residential complex's digital video recorder. 3 officers spent 6 hours reviewing footage in a windowless room at the precinct, the only sounds the hum of the equipment and the occasional click of the fast-forward button. At 1:42:05 p.m., They watched Emily Chen enter the elevator lobby. They watched her press the button, check her phone, step into the car. They continued watching. Hours passed in the recording. She never emerged. They checked the rear exit, the stairwells, the parking garage. Nothing. The logic was inescapable. If she hadn't left the building through any monitored exit, she was either still inside or she had left in a manner the cameras couldn't recognize. Then, at 2:15 a.m. on the morning of November 9th, the lobby feed showed Robert Lin exiting the elevator. He was struggling with a large, hard-shell Samsonite suitcase, gray, wheeled, approximately 3 feet tall. The weight distribution was wrong. He dragged it rather than rolled it, his shoulders hunched with effort. The sound, though not captured by the silent footage, could be imagined. The low rumble of plastic wheels over tile echoing in the empty lobby. He loaded the suitcase into the trunk of a white Toyota Camry and drove away at 2:23 a.m. The license plate was clearly visible. A records check confirmed the vehicle was a rental from Enterprise, picked up in Lin's name on November 7th, one day before Emily's disappearance. The raid on Unit 1104 occurred at dawn on November 13th. The door was breached with a hydraulic ram, the sharp crack of splintering wood echoing down the corridor. Officers entered with weapons drawn, but the apartment was empty. It was also immaculate, floors gleaming, counters bare, the air thick with the chemical scent of industrial cleaning agents. Detective Rivera noted the smell immediately. Bleach, ammonia, and something else. A solvent typically used to remove organic stains. The bathroom tiles were spotless, almost luminescent under the overhead lights. The forensic team, wearing full Tyvek suits, began their examination. A technician sprayed luminol across the bathroom floor and walls, then switched off the lights. In the darkness, the room erupted in the ghostly blue glow of chemiluminescence, the chemical reaction that occurs when luminol contacts trace amounts of blood. The pattern was extensive, concentrated around the bathtub drain, splattered across the lower tiles, smeared in long streaks where someone had attempted to scrub it away. The glow faded after 30 seconds, but the images were captured by forensic photographers. Behind the bathroom baseboard, wedged into a gap no wider than a dime, an evidence technician found a small silver earring. Mrs. Chen later identified it as a gift she had given her daughter for her 22nd birthday. Robert Lin was arrested at a Motel 6 on the outskirts of Tacoma at 11 a.m. on November 13th. He offered no resistance. In the interrogation room, a windowless space lit by fluorescent tubes that cast no shadows, Detective Rivera laid out the evidence methodically. The surveillance footage showing Emily entering but never leaving, the suitcase at 2 in the morning, the luminol reaction, the earring. Lin sat motionless, his hands folded on the metal table. For 3 hours, he maintained that Emily had come for an interview, stayed for 20 minutes, and left through the stairwell. "I never saw her again," he repeated. Detective Rivera placed a photograph on the table, a still frame from the CCTV showing Emily checking her reflection in the elevator doors, her expression hopeful and unguarded. "Her phone died 7 minutes after she arrived," Rivera said quietly. "Explain that." Lin's gaze dropped to the table. He didn't confess out of remorse. He confessed because the mathematics of the evidence left him no plausible alternative. In exchange for consideration at sentencing, he provided the location where he had disposed of the body. A remote trail in the Cascade foothills, 2 hours east of the city. His voice, when he described the act, was flat and procedural, as though recounting the steps of a logistical problem he had tried and failed to solve. The recovery team was dispatched to the coordinates on November 14th. It was raining, a cold, steady drizzle typical of Pacific Northwest November. Using GPS data from the rental car and Lin's description, They located a shallow grave beneath a stand of Douglas fir. The excavation was slow and respectful, conducted by forensic anthropologists who worked in silence, broken only by the rain and the occasional murmur of confirmation. When the remains were confirmed through dental records as Emily Chen's, Detective Rivera made the call to her family. It lasted less than 2 minutes. There are no words in any manual that soften the finality of such news. The trial convened 6 months later in King County Superior Court. The courtroom was air-conditioned to precisely 72 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature recorded in the court transcripts. The prosecution presented the timeline, the fabricated job posting, the lure, the 7-minute gap between Emily's entry and her phone's death. The jury watched the CCTV footage in silence. The young woman in the beige coat, adjusting her hair, stepping into the elevator with a portfolio and a future she believed was beginning. The contrast between her innocent anticipation and the calculated predation waiting above broke the composure of the gallery. Robert Lynn was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. He showed no emotion as the guards led him from the courtroom. The gavel's sound, a sharp wooden crack, was the punctuation mark that ended the legal case, but fixed the loss permanently into the historical record of the city. The camera feed from November 8th, 1:42:05 p.m., has been archived by the Seattle Police Department as evidence file SPD 2022 EP 1847 V001. It remains accessible in the digital vault, a 17-second record of a moment that appeared entirely ordinary until it became the last verified sighting of a life. The elevator doors close at 1:42:25 p.m. The lobby remains empty. The timestamp continues its count. 1:42:26 p.m. 1:42:27 p.m. 1:42:28 p.m. The camera sees everything and understands nothing. It recorded her arrival with perfect mechanical clarity. It would take forensic analysis, family determination, and 12 days of investigation to understand that it had also captured the moment Emily Chen walked out of the safety of the known world. She was 24 years old. Her absence is permanent. The footage remains, silent and unchanging, a testament to the moment when routine became tragedy.